Welcome. If you're an entrepreneur, leader, or business owner, this video is for you because we're going to talk about the importance of clarifying your message and why it's great for your business, how it's going to help you get more customers. In addition to that, why it's important to really clarify your message. I'm your host. My name is Terryl Humphrey. Welcome to the Phase Knowledge Podcast. If this is your first time, make sure you hit that follow button, hit that like, and most importantly, engage in the conversation. If you're a business owner, stay to the end because we're talking about the importance of clarifying your business message. And so we're going to get started. And over half a decade, one thing that I really had trouble understanding is really understanding who I serve. And when I started to understand that I can't serve everybody is not my ideal customer, which is absolutely okay. But what I started to learn is that everybody don't have to be my customer, but someone has to be my customer. And so there's a saying through Action Zone, shout out to Action Zone, that was like, if you're trying to serve everybody, you're serving no one. And I'm like, well, how do you know who to serve? How do you know who to reach out to? How do you know who to speak out to? And it taught me by really building the media business from ground level zero, because I'm still in the process of building everything, is that when you clarify your message, the people who are looking for your services, who has the problem that you solve, will eventually raise their hand. When I started to notice that people are raising their hand from the problem that I'm solving, I'm like, ooh, I think I figured it out. It wasn't the fact that I'm not figuring it out. It's more so as I'm figuring it out is a new discovery. There's a new level of understanding. There's a new level of like, wow, this makes sense. It's making sense because the message is becoming more clear. So when you clarify your message has to be clear for the people that you are communicating with, because the more you can communicate the language of the people that you're serving, the problems that they're facing, the more you're able to serve them, the more you're able to help them, the more you're able to solve their problems. So when you clarify your business message, you have to clarify to a point where it's simple, it can be understood, and most importantly, it can be recognized. Let's get to it. Get your pen and notebooks out because we get into it today. So first thing first, identify. Oh, y'all can't even see that. Identify your message. In other words, who or what problem do you solve? What problem do you solve? In business, there's a problem that has to be solved. And what I discovered over even 2.5 years ago is that everyone has a problem with something, but everybody's problems is not your problem to solve. And so I was like, okay, so what problem can I really focus on? And so they taught me, well, it's not just about helping leaders launch their podcast with confidence, because that's what my primary focus was on. So then when I start to get feedback and I have to update and adjust and pivot, I start to see, well, launching your podcast is a passion, is a skill that people want to have. But then when people actually think about it, it's like, wait, hold on, that's a lot of work that goes into it. So I had to be the one to pivot. I'm like, all right, cool. So I can offer that as a product and a service right now. But for now, I need to be focusing on something that a lot of business owners struggle with, which is gaining more exposure, for the right customers. So when the right customers come about, they can literally say, I have that problem. So launching the podcast it's a technical skill. Once you get your microphone, once you get your laptop, once you get your camera and doing it consistently. See, the problem wasn't launching your podcast. Problem was doing it consistently. So then I'm like, all right, cool. So what am I missing? What am I not understanding? I started to recognize that it wasn't the fact that people don't want to launch their podcast, because there's a lot of people who want to launch their podcast. There's a lot of people who want to produce content. There's a lot of people who want to just put their voice out there. And so I'm like, all right, cool. So what am I struggling with? The thing that I was struggling with is that this problem that I was trying to solve is not a need problem. It's not a need problem. The difference between wanting and needing, I want some water, so I'm going to drink some water. Whereas it's completely different from, I haven't drunk no water all day and I need the water. The problem that you're solving, the problem that I started to solve is that people have to need something for their business. And when I started to recognize the need that people have with gaining exposure, yes, you can be on all these different platforms. Yes, you can have a podcast. Yes, you can be on YouTube. Yes, you can be on all these different places to put your business. In addition to that, the exposure that you're getting does not mean that you're going to get the right customers. When I started to understand that the right customers only come from you communicating clearly, you communicating simply, you communicating to a point where people are raising their hands and say, I have this problem, then I started to understand that the problem that I'm solving is not around launching your podcast with confidence. The problem that we are focused on now is helping leaders gain more exposure. Why? Because the problem there is that there's a lot of business owners out there who struggle with gaining more exposure, who struggle with sharing their story, who struggle with getting the right customers. And so when I start putting myself out there even more, as I'm pivoting in the process, in the middle of pivoting, I go out and ask and I communicate with other people, and I start to recognize a pattern. The pattern that I'm recognizing as I'm clarifying my business message is that majority of people that I come encounter with have the struggle, have the problem of gaining more exposure. So the exposure that really made a difference was that here's a business owner right here. I'm gonna say business owner, and their struggle is that they are the best. Hold on. I heard this terminology from Neo. Shout out to Neo from the 10X movement and so on and so forth. So that was like, they are the best kept secret. In other words, no one knows them. And so when I started to like really position myself differently, I'm like, wait, hold on. When I clarify my business message, I have to identify my message. I have to identify who I'm speaking with. And the reason why that's so important, because when I identify who I'm speaking with, I start to recognize the problem that I need to solve. As I go out to the marketplace and I communicate with people, I literally remember doing this exercise for the first time. And I was doing this exercise this time when I was going to USL. And as I was going to USL, University of South Florida, I was going there. That was like, well, you have to go out to the marketplace and talk to people, and you have to go out and ask questions, and you have to go out and get feedback, and you have to go out and pivot, and you have to go out and update your model, and you have to go out and do all these different things. And so as I went out and about to while I was attending University of South Florida, I'm asking people about social media. I'm like, all right, cool. So when the last time you used social media? That was like right before you walked up. I was like, I appreciate it. I was like, for the next question I have, when you get on social media, are you just get on there for fun, or you get on there for like business opportunities? And majority of them said for fun. And I'm like, okay, is there a problem with social media that you're having, or is just more so that you just doing it, you just get on it to bypass time? And it was like, well, I'm just using it. I'm just using it. I don't have no purpose to use it. And so then when I go back and say, hey, like I went out there and did it, and no one said that they have the problem I'm trying to solve. It was like, well, now you have to adjust the questions that you're asking. Yes, you did it right. Yes, you asked the questions. Now you have to adjust who you asking it towards. You have to understand the problem that you're solving. Everyone doesn't have that problem. And when I recognize that, college students don't have the problem of gaining more exposure for their classroom or for their homework. College students don't really have the time nor energy to really learn more about that, because they are focused on doing schoolwork. College students don't necessarily have the struggle of not being known. College students don't have the time to start business because doing homework and things of that nature. Oh no, doing homework, attending class, going home, doing the same thing over and over again. College students was not my ideal audience. College students was not the problem that I was trying to solve at that moment. I was trying to figure out what I needed to do, what I need to focus on. So I was like, all right, cool. Let me try to figure out, is it launching your podcast the thing? Like, is that really the struggle right now? And as I continue to go out there and I continue to ask and continue to talk, continue to get feedback, something happened. My message got more clear. The feedback that I received helped me clarify my business message. Why? Because the feedback helped me adjust. The feedback helped me change. The feedback helped me improve my message. And so when I improved my message, the message that I was improving was helping me identify my customers, was helping me identify my dream customers or my ideal audience that I would like to work with. There's a terminology that I heard when I was doing a podcast a couple of weeks ago. It's called the unique selling proposition. What makes you unique? And when you go and sell yourself, why should people work with you? Your unique selling proposition is something people should remember. And so when I got clear on the problem that I was solving, I was like, all right, cool. Let me just update it. Let me just pivot it just a little bit. It's no longer about helping leaders launch their podcast with confidence. It's now helping leaders gain more exposure, share their story, and attract the right customers. When I switched my language, when I updated who I was speaking out to, when I connected with the entrepreneurs who struggle with exposure, the clarity in the message became more understood because I'm speaking to a problem that a lot of business owners have. Now, my next problem is that I can't speak to all business owners. I have to continue to get more narrow, more focused. Nonetheless, I have an idea. I have a thought behind everything. And as I'm doing the work and I'm receiving feedback, the feedback is helping me grow. Here's the best part about that. As I'm getting feedback, I'm able to grow. As I'm getting feedback, I'm able to learn how to adapt. And so when I started to switch my messages, switch my emails, and clarify as the exact problem that I was solving, I started to understand, man, everybody don't have this problem because everyone is not in business. Everyone does not have the income to purchase the what we have to offer. A lot of people are not willing and able to do it. And so when I started to really understand, all right, cool, when you clarify your business message, you have to be clear on the problem that you're solving. The problem that you're solving has to be the first thing, and then you reverse engineer on how to go about solving it. And so when I started to reverse engineer how to solve the problem that I was really focused on, which is helping leaders gain more exposure, share their story, and attract the right customers, is that I had to understand that it's not just about a conversation. It's not just about content. It's not just about podcasting. It's more than that, because a business owner, in order for a business owner to grow and excel, they need more people to learn about them, so more people become customers. As more people become customers, more people start to pay them their business, product, and their service. As I started to implement that, I started to see a shift in my business. I started to see a shift in my perspective in the way that I was thinking, because it taught me, to be and to be able to grow a media business that's helping leaders gain more exposure, share their story, and attract the right customers. I have to have the language right, know who I'm speaking with, and identify the problem. There's a study, and I don't know the exact study. I don't know who wrote it, but they mentioned that 97% of business owners fail within a certain amount of time. And as I continue to learn about business, I'm starting to ask, why do a lot of businesses fail? Why do a lot of businesses fail when they get into business? It takes a lot to start your business, go get a loan and go get the finance, go hire people, go bring people in, go figure out the product you're selling. It takes so much just to have a business. And then when you position your business and start doing your business, a lot of business owners fail. And I'm like, why though? Why do a lot of business owners fail? And so I'm asking different questions, going different courses, going to different events. I'm just learning. I'm trying to learn everything. And what it taught me is that one of the things that I discovered is that 97% of businesses fail because they don't have the right exposure for their business. And so it was like, oh, okay, this is something that I think I can solve. This is something that I believe I can solve. This is something that I might have to try to solve. And so as I started to improve everything that I was doing, see, the problem that I was solving became more clear. It recently became more clear because when I go out and help leaders gain more exposure, share their story, and attract the right customers, I'm helping them be seen. I'm helping them be heard. I'm helping them be valued. Why? Because I started to position my language simple. My language became simple because I started to understand the problem that I'm solving. And what this will do is that it will give me a path. That's crazy. It would give me a path to follow. Hold on. All right, it would give me a path to follow, and in this path, there's a god dog. In this path, I didn't recognize I was on the wrong page. All right, so in this path, there we go. The problem has to be the direction. As the problem is understood, what happens after that is okay because the problem is the focus. Once the problem is the focus, in other words, the problem, hold on, make sure it's there. The problem leads to more customers. And I give you a prime example. So a couple weeks ago, I started running Facebook ads. And as I started to run Facebook advertisements, I started to see something differently. People were actually raising their hands and saying, I have this problem that you're trying to offer, trying to solve. And so as people are raising their hands and I'm communicating with them, I'm doing webinars with them, I started to see, well, these people have the problem, because I literally asked them like, hey, most leaders struggle with this. Are you that leader who struggle with that? Here's a webinar. You should come and join. As people started to join, I started to see that the problem that I was solving became more clear. The problem that I was solving, it taught me, well, if you keep the language simple and you understand the problem that you're solving, you will eventually be able to solve it if you continue to do it. And so when I started that, and I recognized, I was like, hey, cool, let me go out and continue to talk about it, continue to get feedback, continue to receive feedback, and let me just adjust as I'm going. As I continue to do that, I started to see something differently. I started to see people raise their hand for the problem that I was trying to solve. As people are raising their hand, I started to understand people are raising their hands for a reason. They're not raising their hands, they're not clicking the button, they're not going to the website, they're not inputting their information for nothing. They're doing it for a reason, and the reason is because they have this problem. To clarify your business message, you have to understand the problem that you're solving, because the problem has to be the direction. The problem has to be the focus, and when you focus on the problem, you will eventually have more customers. You will eventually have more people raise their hand. You will eventually be able to talk to more people. And as I started to understand, wait, I'm talking to a lot more people about the problem that I'm solving. Clarify my message, clarify my business message became more understandable, because people are saying, I have this problem. I have this problem and I would like to solve it. And I was trying to figure out how to go about something. I'm like, all right, cool. Gladly, you came in, watched the presentation, and talked about it, and we went over it. What it also taught me is that the message in the clarity in the message was so important, because I focused on the problem. I focused on the problem that I knew a lot of business owners have. At that time, it was helping leaders launch their podcast with confidence. But then when I go out to the marketplace and put myself out there even more, it's coming to me. It's slowly coming to me. But as I go out there and help leaders gain exposure, share their story, and attract more customers, if people want to launch their podcast, we have that in addition to what we are offering in the beginning or on top. So that was a bit difficult to explain, mainly because it was too many words. So here's the thing about that. When I lead with the problem, I'm able to solve this problem effectively. I'm able to solve this problem to the point where I can continue to solve it for more people, like this person I just communicated with. This gives me an advantage. The advantage that it gives me is that it gives me The advantage that it gives me is that it gives me clarity. I can't solve every problem. In fact, I don't need to solve every problem. I need to solve one problem the best way I can, so this one problem can be solved for many people. And when I started to understand that, I was like, oh, that's why I pivot my business model, because if I can help leaders gain more exposure for their business, share their story, attract the right customers, how come I won't be able to do it for more people? Be more consistent, be more intentional, be more focused. How come I won't be able to do that? Well, I can do that as I clarify my business message. I start to understand the problem that I'm solving. And so when we first got into it, we talked about why you have to identify what problem you're solving. When you identify the problem that you're solving, you go and solve that problem consistently. And as you solve it consistently, you start to be positioned differently. Hold on. As you solve this problem consistently, you start to be positioned differently. Why? Because people start to remember you even more. People start to remember, hey, use me as an example, that's the podcast guy. Every time I go in the event, every time I go in the place, I'm talking about podcasting. Why? Because podcasting is what I do. Well, podcasting is the business I'm in the media business. Nonetheless, it's more so of understanding that the problem that I'm solving have to be consistent with it, because the more I talk about the problem, the more people can say, I have this problem. Can you help me with it? That's the next point we're going to hit on, is that appreciate y'all for joining in. Next point we're going to hit on is that hold on, let me make sure I got it right. All right, it's right here. The next point that we're going to hit on is that you have to state the problem multiple times. Why? Because if you state the problem multiple different times, I won't even share my screen. Hold on. There we go. If you state the problem multiple different times, people will eventually say, I have this problem. People will eventually say, can you help me solve this problem? People will eventually say, hey man, like, I really need your help solving this issue. When you state the problem multiple different times, like for instance, we help leaders gain more exposure, share their story, and attract the right customers. If I only say that once, how do you know what we do? How do you know how we can help? How do you know how we have helped people? The problem has to be communicated multiple different times, multiple different ways. Why? Because the same thing can be said multiple different ways, and it might resonate in a different way. It's not going to resonate the same for everybody. In fact, as it's resonating with the right people, it will eventually start making sense. The problem has to be stated multiple times because the problem has to be the focus. The focus is the problem, and the problem is what creates the clarity. Once you have clarity for your business, you talk about your problem that you're solving consistently. I watched this interview a couple of days ago, and it was around a company doing a 20 versus 1. It was for entrepreneurs and mentorship. Doing this conversation, as I'm watching it, as I'm like observing it, I'm watching it, right? And they was like, all right, so the competition is to discover if I'm going to be able to mentor you, or who's going to be the one that get mentored. So as I'm watching it, he's literally asking me, all right, so what's your business? Okay, what do you do? Who do you solve? I like how he asked one question: how much money have you invested in your business? Because money, your business has to be invested in time, money, consistency, and so on and so forth. And see, here's the thing: the people that were pitching their business probably need to pitch their business multiple different times, multiple different occasions, multiple different places. Why? Because the more you state the problem that you solve, the more people can say, I have that problem. The more people say I have that problem, you start to understand that you are helping more people. I'm starting to understand that I'm helping more people because if I state the problem, which is we help leaders gain more exposure, share their story, and attract the right customers, you understand everything that I'm doing instead of me waiting towards the end and not even bringing it up once. I watch a lot of podcasts, I watch a lot of interviews, I watch a lot of conversations, and everybody wait towards the end to sell something or to talk about their product and their business. And I'm like, how come you don't talk about the problem up hand and throughout and really just communicate with your audience? Like, hey man, like this is the problem that we saw. If you have this problem, click the link below. When you click the link below, go to this place, fill out the application, and then my team will be in contact with you. Well, I think that's, the ideal thing to do. Nonetheless, I'm not doing that right now because I just got more clear on the problem that I'm solving. When you clarify your business message, everything starts to point back to the problem that you're solving. It points back to how you can help people. It points back to how you have helped others. When you start to position yourself differently, when you clarify your business message, more people will start to say, I have that same problem. So when you state the problems multiple times, multiplication, is better than addition. And what does that mean? It means the more you say something, the more it multiplies. The more you don't say something, the more it adds because you're the only one that's communicating it. And when I started to discover, I'm like, wait, hold on, this is different. When you clarify your business message, you are clarifying the people that you serve. As you clarify your business message, you start to position yourself differently. As you clarify your business message, people start to say, I have that problem. I remember I did my first 90-day challenge. I think my first or second. And as I did this 90-day challenge, a lot of people was like, hey, man, you got to focus on the problem. You got to focus on the problem. And it was like, business consists of you solving a problem. And I'm like, well, how do you know what problem you're solving? Like, I get it. You have to solve a problem, but how do you know? I thought I was solving a problem, but the problem came from me not understanding the clarity of the business. And so me trying to figure out what the business was going to be, what media business was, and how I can go by helping others, it solidified, it justified that I'm doing something wrong. I might be focused on a wrong problem, but the problem that I'm trying to focus on, I know I have to focus on a problem. As I focus on a problem, I start to eliminate and remove distractions because I need to figure out how to solve the problem that my future customers have. I need to solve the problem of the problem that my customers have or my future audience have. So that way, as I'm helping them solve that problem, they can see the benefit behind it. They can see the goals behind it. They can see how it helps them overcome their current challenge. As I help leaders gain more exposure, share their story, and attract the right customers, I start to get more clear on my message. Clarity, I believe, in my opinion. Let me know in the comments if you got a business and comment your business down below. In my opinion, okay, business is really challenging because you have to gain the clarity for you to speak to your customers accordingly. For you to speak to your customers simple. For you to speak to your customers, say, hey, I have this problem. And just because I have this problem, how can you help me? How can you help me solve this problem? How can you help me overcome this problem? And so when I started to understand, I don't have a problem with perfection. I'm not a perfectionist. I'm always doing stuff wrong and incorrectly. What I do have a problem with is really, as I start to see what's working and what's not working, I set things up. I set things by things. I'm talking about systems, emails, automations, and so on and so forth. I set things up as I see it, and I'm like, dang, this is gonna take a lot of time. But I'm glad I'm able to see that because as I see that, some things are already put into place. Like for instance, when you schedule a podcast conversation, you have a discovery call. We're gonna learn more about you just to make sure that we're aligned. Once we do that, I'm gonna send you an interview plus the calendar link so that you can schedule another podcast or the actual podcast conversation. And once we have the podcast conversation, right after that, in 7 days, you're going to get the full conversation. It's going to be published within 7 days. And in between that, you're going to get the podcast trailer. Why am I sharing that? Because the problem that a lot of business owners have is that they don't have the right exposure for their business. I'm trying to simplify everything. I'm trying to remove the distractions, remove the lack of communication, remove all these different things. It's not the podcast that I'm selling, because people go on podcasts all the time. It's the advertising, it's the sponsorship, it's the business spotlight that I'm promoting. Why? Because the more people learn more about your business, the more people are willing to do business with you. And when you understand the problem that you are solving, the problem that you're solving will be solved because you are solving someone's problem. You're not solving everyone's problem. In fact, if you're trying to solve 8 billion people in this world problem, you're solving no one problem. When you understand the problem that you're solving is for a particular problem, particular person, particular issue that you can solve, you start to position yourself differently. I put right here, when you have to state the problem multiple different times, because you never know who has their problem as you are coming encounter with them. When you communicate with people, you have to state the problem multiple different times, because you never know who's going to say I have this same problem. And as you are communicating with them, multiplication is better than addition, because when you tell one person and this one person has the same problem, they go tell multiple people. Excuse me. Not only do they tell multiple people start to learn more about your business. Multiple people start to learn more about you. Multiple people start to understand the problem that you solve. And until you get to that point where you saying it over and over and over again, it's going to be challenging. I'm at a point where I'm saying it over and over again, and it's still challenging, but it's getting less challenging. And the reason why multiplication is so important is because when you start to add tools to your business and systems and all these different things, the work that you're doing, it will eventually multiply, because you don't have to be the one that's doing everything. And when you get to a point where you have automations, things in place where you can stay consistent, it's like, well, the only thing that's stopping you is you getting more customers. The only thing that's stopping me right now at this point is getting more customers, or rather getting the right customers where I know I can help. Like, I want to be able to sell one thing and then be able to sell another thing, to be able to sell another thing. With the podcast lunch course, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, the only thing that I can sell is the podcast lunch course. Once you figure out how to launch your podcast, that's pretty much it. Then you just have to have a consistent schedule with it. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, cool. I don't need to focus on the next sale. I need to focus on this sale. But for this sale, how can I help? How can I solve the problem? How can I focus? How can I clarify? And I started to understand that if I focus on the exposure part, if somebody want to come in and launch your podcast with confidence, absolutely fine. That's okay. But the main focus is helping leaders gain more exposure, share their story, and attract the right customers. There's a terminology that it kind of made sense a while ago, but you got, excuse me, you got this tree right here. Hold on. There we go. And you got fruit here. Inside of here, it's called fruit. Let's say mango, apple, bananas, whatever's in the tree. There's another terminology that's down here that says low hanging fruit. Which means, hold on, let me make sure. Fruit. Which means there's something hanging from the tree. There's something about to fall off from the tree. There's something that's disconnected from the tree, but when it falls, you don't have to climb up a tree. You don't have to get a stick and poke at the tree. You don't have to get something and throw it at the tree. It literally just falls. And so I was trying to figure out that thing that just fell for me. And it was like, well, launching your podcast, of course, that's a skill that I have. But to really run it as a business, I'm like, all right, cool. All right. What do I need to have? The equipment that people need to have is something that's in their doing, in their responsibility, in their roles, which is absolutely fine. But the problem with launching your podcast is that a lot of people think it's the equipment. No, in reality, with the problem with launching your podcast is really getting comfortable on camera. It's really sharing your story. It's really getting comfortable with your voice. So when I start putting myself out there and I start communicating and say, hey, this is the problem that we solved. We solved this problem. Here's the problem with that. Here's the feedback that I received from that. A lot of people say I'm very busy to launch my podcast. A lot of people know how difficult it is to launch a podcast because that's probably why they haven't launched their podcast. So now I'm trying to climb up the tree to the fruit tree. Let's say it's called a fruit tree, whatever fruit you want to have. I'm trying to climb up this tree. I'm trying to go in the tree where I can shake the branches and a lot of fruit come off. See, here's the problem with that. I had to climb the tree, and as I climbed the tree, I get inside of the tree on another tree branch, and I grab the tree branches, and I'm shaking. I'm forcing the fruit to fall. I'm forcing the customers to the people to become customers. I'm forcing a problem to be solved. Here's another scenario. So the same story. So let's just say the low-hanging fruit. I noticed there's not the fact that people want to launch their podcast. People just want more exposure based off the feedback that I've received. So instead of me setting up a tree and climbing this tree, go inside of the tree, hang on a branch, and then shake the tree limbs or tree branches and watch the fruit come, I'm forcing the fruit to drop. Whereas if I just stand underneath the tree, and the fruit that's already hanging to its threads, is hanging into to it's almost falling. If I just get underneath, hold on. If I get underneath it and catch it, if I get underneath the tree and get under the fallen fruit, the fruit that's about to hit the ground, if I get underneath it and I catch it, see, here's the scenario. I caught the low hanging fruit. I caught the low hanging fruit. I caught the low hanging fruit because the fruit just fell into my hands. In business, what I recognize is that I was trying to go against the low-hanging fruit. The podcast is the low-hanging fruit because I bring people on to learn more about their stories. I bring people on to learn about their stories. So this is a form of exposure. I'm learning about people's stories. So the friction there is me catching the problem that a lot of entrepreneurs have, which is not gaining more exposure, sharing their story, and attracting the right customers. Now that I understood, I'm like, wait, hold on. Why don't I just make it easy for you? I need to make this easy for you. As the apple, fruit, mango, whatever you want to say, as the low-hanging fruit fell into my hands, I started to reflect on, wait, hold on, I've been doing this for quite some time. I already have things in place. I don't have to recreate the wheel. The wheel has already been created. And as I'm creating the wheel that's already been established, as I focus on the low-hanging fruit, the problem that I'm solving is the problem that I've been solving. Come on. The problem that I'm solving is the problem that I've been solving. But it's something that I had to discover to understand that this low-hanging fruit came because it was already dropping. It was already right in front of me. It was already something that I was doing. And it taught me something. It taught me something important. The podcast is where people come on and share their stories. So how about I just create an offer, which I've been doing the last couple of months, last weeks. As I started to create an offer around the podcast, now the objections are different. Now, when people come on, they say, man, I ain't used to paying for no podcast fee. I ain't used to that because all it is just a conversation. You're absolutely right. I remember the first time I heard that objection, the objections is when people are, they say no. In other words, they say no. I remember the first time I heard this objection and I got over the place. I was like, man, I thought I figured it out. I thought that was the thing that was the low hanging fruit. I thought it was the one. And so I was like, all right, so now I got to change it again. The first time I heard that objection, I literally changed my business model again back to Lunch Your Podcast with Confidence. But then when I revert back to it, go back to it, I'm like, wait, hold on. It's actually working. People are literally coming on and sharing their story. I'm like, cool, so what can I do differently? I needed to understand why people was objecting that. Like what was the pushback? Like what was they not used to? Or what are they already used to? They used to come on to podcasts, recording a podcast, and that's it for free. Like they're not even paying to get on a podcast. So I'm like, all right, cool. If people are already used to getting on podcasts, what if you're not just paying for the podcast? What if the problem that I've been solving for so long, you just come on, share your story, gain more exposure, share your story and attract the right customers. What if you just came on and did that? How can I position that differently? So then I asked my mentors, I asked different programs, go to different business school as well, business management school. And I'm like, wait, hold on. The low-hanging fruit is the podcast. So how can I make a business around this? That's when it hit me. The low-hanging fruit is a form of sponsorship, is a form of advertising, is a form of like helping them gain more exposure. And I was like, oh, I've been doing this whole time. I just ain't been asking for the money because I didn't know it was the money to ask for. I was trying to figure out the problem that I needed to solve. And as I'm trying to find the low-hanging fruit, I kept missing the fruit because I kept pivoting. I kept missing the fruit because I kept moving. I kept missing the fruit because I kept starting over. When I just reflected on everything that I've been doing, I started to understand. I was like, wait, I've been solving this problem for so long, and all I have to do is just start putting things in place, putting my numbers, putting the presentation, and present it and say, hey, this is how much it costs. Hold on. I started to see the problem differently. I'm starting to see the problem differently because it's not just about the problem of gaining more exposure, sharing your story, and attracting the right customers. It's really doing it consistently. It's really when I think back, when I reflect and think about everything that I've been through or trying to develop this business, I started to see something. I started to notice something. People are reaching out to get onto the podcast. And then I asked, I'm like, where y'all find me at? Like, I'm confused. Where did you find me at? And they told me where they was finding me at. You see, when I start to catch the low-hanging fruit because I'm getting feedback, as I'm getting feedback, everything just starts to fall in my hands. It starts to make sense. I start to see the numbers. I start to see the data. I start to see the presentation. I start to put the things together. And when I started to catch the low-hanging fruit, and when people reach out and to get onto the podcast and I say, yeah, let's do the discovery call. Wait, hold on. I already got the steps. I already got the process. I already got the blueprint. So now when I say, hey, it is an investment, I have something to offer, have something to sell, developing the thing to sell is the most challenging thing there is when you're starting a business from ground level zero. When I started to understand that, I started to recognize, I was like, hold on. This is something. This gotta be something. If I focus on the fruit that I caught, in other words, if I focus on the problem that I'm solving, which is helping leaders gain more exposure, share their story, and attract the right customers, if I put a price to that, if I put a price tag to that, I will eventually be in business. Excuse me. But it's the eventually part that takes a long time. And so when you multiply or when you state the problem multiple times, you're multiplying your impact, because you never know who needs your problem or who needs your solution to the problem that you're solving. But what does matter is that you are saying it consistently. And when you focus on the low-hanging fruit that's already right in front of you, that you've been already doing, you start to see the problem that you already been helping others with. And so it led me to understand that the problem that I'm solving is helping leaders gain exposure, share their story, and attract the right customers. I started to recognize, I was like, oh, it took a long time. Somebody come and say it took a long time. Because it took a long time because I had to understand the time that I was developing to the problem. The time that I was putting into the problem, the time that I was establishing the problem. The problem has already been in discovery, like it's already been discovered, but it's just recognizing why it's been discovered. So all these different books, all these different information, going to school for business and doing business and investing to the business, doing all these different things, it starts to make sense. Because the more I focus on the problem, the more I state the problem, the more I get more clear. The name of this title, the name of this episode is to clarify your business message. Your business message has to clarify the low-hanging fruit that's already there. So picture this. So instead of you climbing the ladder, climbing the tree, and shaking the tree and letting all the fruit come down, check this out. What if the low-hanging fruit that was already falling, you have 20 of those that's about to fall in addition to that? Hold on, now I got to draw it out. Because now I want to see that. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see that. Hold on. Make sure. All right. Imagine you got the tree. All right, you got the tree. And you got the fruit right there, 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 fruit right there. Okay, imagine you go underneath the tree and you see one fruit that's hanging down, that's about to fall, it's about to drop. You get underneath the tree to catch it, but guess what? Multiple different fruits fall, or multiple fruits of the same fruit falls, whatever that is. Let's just say apples. Let's keep it simple. You got a whole bunch of apples that fell when you was ready to catch it. Here's the difference. Instead of you forcing the fruit out the tree, the fruit naturally falls because it's time. The fruit naturally falls because it has been harvested. The fruit naturally falls because it was the right moment. It was the right moment for the fruit to fall. But see, when you catch it and you understand the problem that you're solving, here's the thing about the falling of the fruit. That means more people are going to come into your world. More people are going to be able to say, I have this problem. And you are going to help more individuals because you are waiting for that fruit to fall. You're still going there because you're underneath the tree. But see, here's the thing about action. As you take action, everything starts to multiply. I literally looked at my data yesterday. I looked at my podcast data, and I saw it was in different countries that I never been in before. I'm literally in different countries I ain't never been in before, and the way it's taken off, it was like, oh man, I wasn't even expecting that. But see, here's the thing about multiplication. You don't have to expect it to happen. Just know it will happen. As it's happening, you are catching the fruit. In other words, solving the right problem. In other words, solving the right process. In other words, clarifying your business message. The last thing that we're going to talk about today. This one is the most important. You got to show up. Show up. I'm going to underline that. You have to show up. You see, if in the example earlier, if this person didn't fall to catch it, hold on. We're going to say that's a glove. If this person wasn't underneath the tree to catch that low hanging fruit, the fruit would have just hit the ground. The fruit would have hit the pavement. The fruit would have been bad because you wasn't able to catch it. When you show up, you never know what's going to happen. When you show up, you never know what's going to come. When you show up, you are showing up because you are waiting for the opportunity. In the Marine Corps, when I served in the Marine Corps, they talked about how it's important to be early. When I played football, they talked about the importance of being early. When I was raised by a single mom who raised 3 boys by herself, she talked about the importance of showing up early. You see, when you show up early, you get there before anybody else. When you get there before anybody else, guess what you're doing? You're showing up. In business, the most critical thing to ever do is that you have to show up. The more you show up, the more you are able to catch the low-hanging fruit. Because watch this, because if you don't show up, someone who is your competitor, someone who is the other business, someone who has a better business, or someone who's just in business, just show up at the right time, will get your customers. When your customers go to your competition because they the ones that showed up and you didn't show up, the low-hanging fruit goes to the next person. The low-hanging fruit goes to the next business. The low-hanging fruit goes to the next business owner. Why? Because they showed up. Showing up is critical to one's success. Showing up is critical to one's success. Why? Because in order to clarify your business message has to come from you showing up. Since I've been pivoting and updating everything I've been doing, everything that I have been doing have been growing. Like it's slowly growing. It's slowly like improving. But every day the goal is to show up. Every day, the goal is to be better than yesterday. Every day, the goal is to at least talk to a couple of businesses or a couple of future customers. Why? Because if I'm able to show up with intention, the low-hanging fruit that I'm trying to catch will eventually fall into my hands because I'm constantly putting myself out there. As a leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you have to put yourself out there consistently, regardless of if you have failed a lot. Regardless of if you have a lot of losses, regardless of how life is lifing. One thing I talk about a lot is failure. And you have to be okay with failing. You have to be okay with failure. And you have to be okay with just starting over. Because the more you start over, you're not starting over from ground level zero. You're literally starting over from a point of view, a perspective that you have that's literally helping you build your business. That's literally helping you build the confidence. It's literally helping you identify the problem that you're solving. If I would have gave up a half a decade ago, I wouldn't be here today. Now, are there moments when I take breaks? Absolutely. Nonetheless, as I'm taking breaks, I'm still learning. As I'm taking breaks, I'm still discovering. As I'm taking breaks, I'm still growing. As I'm taking breaks, I'm still evolving. You don't stop growing because you're not showing up. You stop growing because you're not taking the action to grow for yourself. The low-hanging fruit is the most critical fruit there is to take. Because if you're already doing something, why not keep doing it? And so that's one thing that I'm telling myself. I'm like, man, it's already working. Like I'm already getting people like interested into the platform. So I should not stop the platform. I should not stop doing it. It doesn't matter what life is going to be and how it's going to go. When I start building the team and when I have the money to fund the team, people don't say, they talk a lot about team, but the team costs. The team costs mucho dinero. It costs a lot of money. And so when you show up, opportunity is created from this, and then you have the money to fund the opportunity equals opportunity. I remember on my third 90-day challenge to grow a podcast business, I didn't make anything. I didn't even make nothing because I stopped in the middle of it because I'm like, I'm trying to figure out. Somebody in my comments was like, man, you could have worked at McDonald's and got paid a lot more money than that. I said, you're absolutely right. But see, here's the thing about working at McDonald's. Not that there's anything wrong with it. No. It's not anything wrong with it. In fact, one day I'm actually go to work at McDonald's because I want to learn how they operate. I want to learn how their system. I do want to learn how to do that, to be honest. Nonetheless, you will learn how to be organized. You will learn the system. You will learn how to do it consistently. You will learn how to show up consistently. And so when he said that, I was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. See, the difference between trying to grow a business from ground zero to already going to established business, that the established business already have their customer in mind. They know what they're serving. They know who they're serving. They know how much it's going to cost. Like, they know their numbers, like they know business. They just bringing people into the system that's already been developed and improved. Whereas with me being a business owner, I have to start from ground level 0. Or maybe ground level 2. But as I'm building the things and putting things in place, the business that I'm building has all came from ground level 0. I've never had a business before. This is a business that I'm building from ground level 0. Of course, I have mentors. Of course, I have different people that I can go to for advice. Nonetheless, I have to be the one to do the work. So the difference between going to work at McDonald's and get paid more is that as I'm doing that, hold on, there we go. All right, there we go. As I'm doing that, as I'm building the business and learning the skills and putting things in place, identifying the customers, clarifying my message, looking at the finances, looking at all these different things. I'm a better business owner today because I went through the challenges of trying to figure it out. Whereas if I would have went to McDonald's, I just would have learned how to become a worker. I would learn how to be more efficient, more effective, that's no problem at all. But if I want my own business and eventually I want to start hiring people, eventually I want to start like really making an impact on people's lives. And if I'm able to do that from ground level 0, I can teach other entrepreneurs on how to do it as well. See, your goals and dreams has to be bigger than yourself. I heard this from the 10X movement. It was like, if your goals do not scare you, you're not dreaming big enough. There's a book, The Art of the Deal. If you're going to dream, why not dream big? You have to dream big enough to the point where you scare yourself. Every time I get up, I'm like, man, am I going to hit this goal? Man, oh, man. Am I going to hit this goal? I'm going to accomplish this goal. I'm going to do anything. And it's really understanding. I have to give myself time and grace. In addition to that, it's really discovery. It's really just self-discovery of how to have a business. As I'm doing the business, when I go to different mentors, different places, different events, I can ask them from my perspective and say, hey, I'm currently working on this. I'm currently doing this. I'm currently like improving this and so on and so forth. From your experience, from your expertise, what is the thing that I can work on for my business? And then they give me advice. They advise me. They talk to me. They help me. They communicate with me. I can get that type of information if I went to go work at Walmart or at McDonald's. Or, yeah, he said McDonald's. But what it did help me understand is that as I'm learning this, I'm becoming a better business owner. In the future, I'm going to have a team. I'm going to be able to afford the team. I'm going to be able to work with a lot of people and serve a lot of people and solve their problems. But before that happens, I have to clarify my business message. Once I clarify my business message and I get customers into the door and I start selling things as well, then that's when the team's going to come. That's when the impact is going to come. That's when everything is going to grow. But before then, me learning how to show up is more importantly than me not trying to show up. When I started to show up consistently, things start to change. I got more clear, I got more focused, and the problem that I'm solving became more aware. Like the low-hanging fruit is no longer, like I'm no longer dodging the low-hanging fruit no more. I'm literally going underneath the tree and I'm waiting for the fruit to come because I'm showing up daily. Showing up is half the battle. And then after that, it's the skills that you acquire with you showing up. It's not just about showing up. Everything matters. Everything counts. Every day counts. And so when you do it every day, just know you are getting better and you become a better business owner for yourself. So in closing, in conclusion, so today we went over clarify your business message. That was the name of the podcast episode, name of the stream, name of the live. Clarify your business message. And first thing that we went over is that you have to identify the problem that you are solving. What problem are you solving and what customers have the problem that you are looking to serve? The next one that I talked about is that you have to state the problem multiple times. It doesn't matter how many times you say it. We help leaders gain more exposure. share their story, and attract the right customers. I've said that maybe 15 times. I need to say it more. I need to say it more often, so that way, as I'm in the middle of my streams, I'm communicating with people in person, I'm communicating with people online, people know exactly the exact problem that we saw, so that way they can say that they have that problem as well. We can help them. And then last thing that we talked about is that you have to show up. Showing up is half the battle, because when you show up with intention. You show up with the goal. You show up with purpose. And then as you are clarifying your message, you are able to position yourself differently. Remember, we help leaders and entrepreneurs like you gain more exposure, share your story, and attract the right customers. So if you're a leader, entrepreneur, and or business owner, shoot us an email, shoot us a message, and we would love to help you gain more exposure, share your story, and attract the right customers. Make sure you hit that follow button and let me know in the comments your biggest takeaway on why clarifying your business message is important for you. And I love to read, love to engage with it. Until next time, this was great. This was phenomenal. You all have been great. I'll see y'all on the next one.